And then all of a sudden, a tear in the night opened up. It was like a lightning strike came down and opened up this big tear. And I just felt myself go through into the light. But now as I came through the light, I found myself in a tree grove, a very tight tree grove with a gravel path, very windy gravel path.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Spirit Travels. And today we have a very special interview. We have an interview with Rodney, who's going to explain to us his account. And Rodney, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for taking this meeting with me and for coming on this channel and sharing your experience. And whenever you're ready, you can begin, introduce yourself, and start whenever you feel comfortable.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's again an honor to stay and talk to everyone here. So we'll take you back about just over 6 years ago. It happened on July 19th, 2017. It's one date I can never forget now. It's basically another anniversary in my life. This was a day that I had my death experience. I was working as a longshoreman just south of Seattle. We were working on this large barge that we were loading these 50-ton pilings, very long, they're 4-foot diameter, very big pieces, and we've been loading this barge for about a week now. And we would load a couple other barges throughout the day and keep coming back. As they kept bringing more big pieces, we'd add onto the stack. And now the stack is about 4 to 5 levels high, so it's over 20 plus feet up. And on this day, unfortunately, we were down 2 bodies for the day. So my job at the time was to rig this very large steel piling to a crane. And then my job would be to become sort of like a human anchor, where I'd skip along as this thing's being swung around to help guide it. So as it lines up properly onto the crane, they then would lower it down. And then we would restart the process. Well, this fateful day, I got, after doing my part, I got called up to come up to the top of the stack to help lower it down. So I got up there. This was, again, right after lunch. This is the first one right after lunch for the day. And we lower it down, get set. I'm walking back to the ladder. I happen to look at my watch, and it's just turning 1 o'clock. So I happen to get onto the rungs of the steel ladder. I'm probably on the second rung. And I'm sure if anyone's been at a busy Christmas or Thanksgiving gathering together or somewhere place where you happen to be on part of the table and all someone jars the table and you get pushed backwards, well, that's what happened to me. So the ladder and I separated from the stack and went to the vertical, tip, tip, tip like this for a little bit, and all of a sudden down we started to go. So either a tugboat or another barge had struck the barge I was on and sent me out that way by the G-forces, pushed me out. So as I started to go down, everything started to slow down. But at the same time, it seemed rapidly very fast. My hands, I was trying to grab onto this rusty, round, tube, and I could feel the flakes of rust, the individual flakes on my fingertips as I was trying to hold on to the steel piling as I'm going down, down, down. Unfortunately, as I turn, I start looking down towards the ground through the ladder, and I'm saying at this moment, oh shit. And there was like a pop, and that was at now about the 45 angle coming down, and I was pulled out of my body. From this point, I was not hanging around like a lot of other people might have had these death experiences where they hover over their body or other thing. I went immediately to the void, which was, I would say, explain it as a total blackness, but just discomfort. Now, my body at the time had proceeded down and struck the steel ladder as it struck the floor of the steel barge, coming down and hitting. So my full face and my chest area experienced all the trauma. Or I should say my whole body, literally, because I had multiple rungs all the way down. So what will later come to find out is 3/4 of my face was broken and busted up. My left pectoral major had been severed from one of the rungs as well. That was found out 6 months later, but I'll continue on. So at this time, I did not experience any pain or stuff. I was protected from that initial pain. And I was brought again into this void. It was just a complete darkness. It's like if you've ever been a child and you go down the bottom of your covers, or if you're into a sleeping bag, and it's just that warm, comfortable feeling. It's just bliss. You're just there. You're just a happy child. And as I was down there, there was no thoughts of this side. There was no thoughts of the world. It was just comfort and peace. And then, I can't tell you how long I was there. It was just peaceful bliss. It was just nothing to worry about. But I would say, consciously wise, your consciousness, you're just pure consciousness. It's sort of, if you can imagine, let's say, an orb. I had like a 360 view all around me, awareness of everything around me. I wasn't a body at the time, but I was just there in a liquid black space. And then all of a sudden, a tear in the night opened up. It was like a lightning strike came down and opened up this big tear. And I just felt myself go through into the light. But now as I came through the light, I found myself in a tree grove, a very tight tree grove with a gravel path, very windy gravel path. And I'm just on this thing, booking along, just going down through this path. And then, on the way I'm starting to see these things as I look back, this is a journey pathway. If I'm going through, and I'm just no body, just pure consciousness, like an orb going down a gravel path. But as I come out of this tree grove, I am now on the side of a mountain, coming out to a mountain ledge. And I am out on what you call the precipice. I'm at the very ledge. And being an old hang glider pilot, I'm used to being able to walk on a ledge, so it doesn't bother me much. But I'm looking out, and this mountain meadow was Earth-like, but not Earth. It was just, the colors, the details, everything was just absolutely amazing. I was blown away. But it was a 3-tiered mountain meadow. The bottom left, to me, on the left side, was, I would say, others. Human beings, but other beings as well. Thousands of them. And on the second tier was the most gorgeous rectangle golden portal. And yes, I'm saying a portal. That's it's like a Stargate, whatever, you're looking right at it. And was right there in front of me, just beautiful. Mountains right behind, and I've seen pictures and stuff like this that came in afterwards in the physical on this side of that thing, and I still freak out. I still get goosebumps from that. And then on my third tier was a jeweled marbled halls. It looked like the Parthenon from Greece, and it just was shimmered with different dazzling gems and colors and gold, and just the big grand slabs, the big pillars out front and everything. Just looking at that there, and just I'm stood there for a second, but I find myself starting to glide down. And again, being a hang glider pilot, we're used to some days we don't get to just fly, we just glide, and I just glide myself body again, just like an orb, going into the grass. This big, right between the rectangle portal and the Golden City, or Jewel Marble Halls area. And I lay down in this grass. And if anyone's seen the movie, I try to think, it's where they're the blue skinned people that they have the Avatar. Yep. And then, so when they're taken with Grace, and at the end, when she was dying, how the grass wrapped in around her body. Well, that's what happened sort of around me. The grass wrapped around me. And the love and the light coming from the grass was just unbelievable. And just the whole area around me. It was the love, I describe it. It was like a plasma coating me, wrapping around me. It had texture, it had weight, and I call it liquid love. It was just how it just wrapped around you. And here again, I'm here this tough, supposed to be tough guy working in the fields and those stuff, and here I am explaining about all this love that's coming through me, and I just can't describe it. But it felt like I was being recharged, or either from a past or charging me up for something in the future. And that love. I have a great family. My wife, my 2 daughters, and I cannot love them to that love that I experienced on that side. It was like the love times a million of a child of yours. It's just you can't fathom it. It hits you. It puts pressure on your chest almost. That type of love. And I was there, I can't tell you for how long, but I'm looking through this grass and I'm seeing the cells divide. I'm seeing the things moving around inside the grass, the fluids. I'm seeing all the little lights. You're all one with everything. And it's just that oneness or knowing. But at the same time, I can't tell you how long I was there for, but all of a sudden it felt, for just a second, I felt like I shouldn't be here. This is not right. And at that moment, coming through the field was this silver mist. And there's this almost like a fog bank coming at you. And then through the grass, it's just creeped its way into me. And then as it came around and absorbed around me, out of that silver mist came these 7 light beings. They're the brightest bluish white light you can imagine. It was such blinding. You could not see face structure. You couldn't see anything else. They were human shape, form, but more spindly, with thinner arms, but they're like stretched out. And there's just, again, just the power and the love came from them. It was just amazing. But it was almost like a knowing, like I came to like a brotherhood in a way, or my old family, something where they're around me. And we didn't talk, again, verbal like you and I are talking here. Again, it's all through telepathy or whatever, through the mind, doing things. And I don't remember right offhand about everything, but it's always like everything I go through now in the physical world, there's things I'm drawn to that I was meant to see or do through their interaction with them. So again, I can't tell you how long I was with them, but all of a sudden, I was 1 second right there laying in that grass field. The next thing, they're putting me into what it felt like a straw. And I'm in this tube, or almost you can imagine like a reverse cannon, where I am looking outside of the cannon, and there's 7 light beings surrounding. They're right there facing me, looking into the cannon. And as I'm tucked inside, looking up at them. And now what I consider to be my face would be, or head would be up, and if I was to be legs, I would be face down. But I'm looking up at them, and I'm looking at the tallest one. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm being sent down this tube, and it's a rainbow vortex. And some people call it the Einstein Bridge or whatever else, but I'm going down this thing, and I am just no leaving this place where I was in sheer bliss, sheer happiness, love. I meant contentment like no other. You didn't want to leave it. It was, you were home. And I'm being sent down this tube, and I'm still seeing the light beings in that opening, but the head one, the tallest one, I'm still seeing them. I'm still going down, 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 and I kept falling. And again, I can't tell you how long I fell, but it just felt like forever going down this tube. Like I was in, half the universe away, and then being drawn down into this thing. And all of a sudden, I could stop seeing the light beings any further, and I'm just in this tube, and all of a sudden, the right side of my face closes, we could say closed up like this. Even though I'm still in orb and energy-wise, I felt this part close up. And then I felt the pain. Oh my God, the pain. If you can imagine, again, every tooth in your whole mouth, having the worst toothache you can imagine, every single one was firing off like a piston around through me. And just, the pain was like burning feeling going down. And I'm going down, down, still in this tube, and I am just in pain, just in agony. And all of a sudden, I fuse into the body, into my meat sack. And it's not like when you wake up from a dream or you're just like crawling in. No, this was full on fused in to the body. Very disruptive. If you can imagine, for being a spiritual side, or spiritual bodies are way bigger than our physical bodies. So if you can imagine 20 houses being crammed into a little one house, that's what it's like being slammed in. And at the same time, all of a sudden the vision just started to come through, and I'm just seeing there and see bodies around me, all looking down at me. Some are going, "He's alive! He's alive! Oh my God, he's alive!" And they start freaking out. And next thing you know, I'm being picked up, dead weight. I was 260 at the time, dead weight, and they started hauling me, and they threw me into a car. They ran me out. So again, notice no 911 was called. No ambulance, no medical resuscitation was done on me. I just became awake, and they thought I was dead. They had moved my body from where I had fallen. They had brought over a flat and had thrown my body onto the flat, and then with the loader brought me over into the building, because again, it was a very warm day. I know it was the 80s or high 90s, and we're in blacktop around me. So the best way probably to cool my dead body was put me in a cool place. Then didn't even contact my emergency contact, which was my wife. So, but when they put me in the car, the manager was running around to get into the driver's side, and as he was doing that, I happened to look with my left eye, because my right eye was pouring blood out here. I could feel the blood pulling out of my ear, so on, it was coming out of my nose. And I looked at my watch, and it was 1:35. So I literally had been gone a half hour.
Wow.
And again, I was at a place where there's no medical resuscitation. They didn't have anything to pump me or wake me up or do anything else. To them, I was dead. And that's probably why they never called 911 or did anything else. They're trying to figure out what to do with a dead body here. So, and then they drove me up, the manager drove me up to Highline Medical Center, which is near Tacoma by the airport. And he rushes in, throws down the insurance card. They didn't even bring me to the emergency room. We walked in from the parking lot in. And he literally threw down the insurance card, and I had sat down in a chair, and then he said he's going to go back and finish the job, and then they left me. So I was just left all to myself, and next thing you know, I have a medical team racing at me, carrying me, setting me up, putting a thing on my throat, and then next thing was the process of cutting all my clothes off and then putting me into all these machines, testing me out. And then, since they never called anyone or knew anything was going on, I happened to say, I need to call my wife and see my children. I was just freaking out. I said, I had to see them. If something else happens, if I die on this thing, whatever happens, I need to see them. So I was able to get a contact of the nurse, and she got a hold of my wife, and I used a few key words, and she answered me. So she showed up within 45 minutes there, but in that time, they had determined I was too much work for their for that hospital. I was too far of a bad condition. So they proceeded, after she showed up with the kids and they got to see me, they loaded me up into another ambulance, and they took me to Harborview, which is one of the main hospitals in Seattle, and took me there. So then they did all the procedures all over again, found my brain bleed, so on. They still, can't believe I'm alive. I had such severe trauma. But again, this was also a full moon effect going on, so I didn't even get to have my own room. I was put into a side of a wayward hallway slash. As I'm laying there, I'm taking now 1/3 the amount of painkillers that I should be taking for a person in my condition, which is bad. I had doctors coming and going, how are you not taking this much more pain medication? And then how do you tell them I still felt connected to that love on the other side? That love was still feeding and blocking a lot of the pain that I was going through. They had brought, there was another woman who just happened to come in from her injuries. Unfortunately, her husband had taken a baseball bat to her face. And she's crying and screaming, and I could feel her pain through me. It was just, again, that love, you're connecting to everyone, but they're trying to tell her, ma'am, I know it's painful stuff, but there's a guy who's 10 times worse than you next to you. And you can just calm down. So I'm just like listening here going, oh, great. So that was, in a nutshell, my deal. But, there's so many things that have happened from that, and now after that with a lot of like synchronicities, because the biggest thing I don't know is, was it I experienced, was it real initially? And it took a little while after this event. I went through a week at home. They sent me home and I waited, and then I had the full surgery, and they put 5 plates of titanium in my face. So hopefully I look better now than I did before. They went through the eye, they went through the mouth underneath, and my mouth had been wired for 4+ months or 5 months afterwards. So it was, that was fun doing that. But wonderful broth and all the stuff I had to drink. But the body, again, all this trauma is like, okay, I'm trying to rebuild and go on there. And so my family, just were getting great support, but they're still trying to understand, because I was seeing different things. Like I said, I saw stuff, and there's sometimes I initially started opening up about it on a few things, but not to a lot of people of my experience. And, I still want to feel what I saw. And so I was searching for places around, and my biggest thing initially was I was being drawn to energy, anything with energy. And I started, again, I had worked a little bit with crystals before, but I happened to be, again, since I was in a recliner now at this time, the best thing for me was watching YouTube just to stay busy, learn stuff, get my mind going and stuff. But I was pulling up, especially about organite, which some people know about. It's a composite of 50% organic to non-organic, which is the crystals and resin to metals such as coppers, aluminum, stuff like that, and you put it together. Most people make these into like pyramids and put them around for energy generators. Well, I also drawn to this, and I got to do this. I got to make this stuff. And people start out with pyramids normally. Oh no, not me. Nope. I had to start out with skulls, dragon heads, other stuff, and pouring my life force and energy into these things. And I've made probably about over 200 of these things and made different molds. And I had to gift these to people. I felt like a huge compelling. I had to give back. And as I gave back to everyone, there's been so many other healings through other people when they receive these pieces, that they're receiving my energy and the source from coming through me. That, I've had one little girl, for example, she had a part where she suffered from anxiety, where she would literally pass out. So her parents had to buy her, these couple $1,000 special dog to let them know if she was having an interaction. Well, they don't know what to do with the dog now, because since I made one of these pieces for her, I made her a special big raven. She's no longer had any issues. And this is just one of countless people that have come back with stories and told me of these instantaneous type healings and things going on with this stuff. But as I was making these things, I started feeling my energy force being drawn away. So, I was getting tired, where at the very end, I was developing nosebleeds as I was making these things. Where each time it's just, how do you have a nosebleed when every time you go and make one of these things? So I had to say, okay, I was giving too much of my life force back. So in this experience, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And, through this period, I found other persons who've contacted me, and she had found out I had to make another a YouTube video regarding my NDE. And this woman then had contacted me later on and told me, have you ever heard of Master Saint Germain? And I said, I've heard a little bit about him. I've got a few things I know. There's some stuff with violet and purple that worked with him. And so through this process, I would describe to people, when I get a push or pull to do something now, and some other people I've talked to have also had NDEs explain this feeling. But it's like if you take two opposing magnets and you shove them together, you get that push-pull type feel. It's a real squishy, weird feeling. And I get this. I've learned now to, if I get that push or pull, I just got to do it. So I happened to one day go out, and I had to learn about these composting worms, something to do with worms, and again with energy and back to nature and stuff. But I had to go get some composted worms. So I found a place about a half hour away and drove out to it. And as I get out there, And sorry, this is even before I met this woman or anything else, Saint Germain. But I went out there, and I got these worms, and this guy come in this little old, dusty old room, and we're talking. There's two guys in the back counter, then a couple customers in the store, and all of a sudden the guy turns to me, nice set beard, very faced, very organized, almost like old country style. He comes around, you died, and I'm like, caught me. I was like, yeah, I did. And he walks around the counter, comes around, puts his hand to where my shoulder was, where my left pectoral major had been severed from my shoulder. And he said, you're still connected. And I'm just like, whoa, also the chills and the bells hitting me, and was like, okay, how did he know I'm dead? And I've heard of some interesting interactions before with stuff like this, but it's like, people look at me real weird all the time, and all of a sudden this guy came up and right there. Well, now going forward several months, I did my video, and I had this woman contact me and told me again about the IM discourses, and then about Saint Germain. And there's again about 20 volumes, but I go in about these first 3 volume books, and I got into this. And as I was reading the first volume, there's a picture we open up, and there's a picture of Saint Germain in an etheric view. And I am crapping bricks, and I am breaking down in tears, because literally is that guy that put his hand on me at the store was the exact picture in the book. So I'm just freaking out that I just had a cinemaster play with, contact to work with me. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I've had other events from this happen. I'll give you one other quick story where there's these very large woods, big Douglas firs, that we have this beautiful park about a few blocks away from the house. And I found this is where I go to this is where my place I go for my healing. And there's an energy in that woods. I could feel the energy in that woods. And I'd go around and do my daily walks. Well, one day, and this happened just a year ago, I had a little girl come up to me, and I was always trying to find ways to heal and do this stuff. And this little girl comes up to me, and her dad's chilling just a little ways behind. She runs up, and I've never seen her before. She comes up to me and hands me a dandelion head, first of the one I've seen for the spring. And I'm going, oh wow, thank you. And her dad just looked at me and said, hey, no, I understand. There's definitely a reason for me to have this, and I'm very much grateful, and thank you, little girl. Well, she turns around to me and says, my name is Aurora. I am a girl. So she goes off, and I just knew there was a weird feeling about this. And so I proceeded to go home that night, and as I'm doing a few things, my buddy happens on YouTube, sends me a picture of the Aurora Borealis that he was seeing that night in Montana. And of course, it's all violet, purple. So I'm going, it didn't hit me yet. So I'm just like, okay, wow, that's cool. And so I happen to get in the shower, and as you know, you're right there and you start going to think about things. And next thing you know, I put the thing there, wait a second. My name is Aurora. And now I'm seeing the Aurora Borealis tonight. I'm seeing that they're violet. So that coordinates a lot with Saint Germain, because he is what's known as the Chohan of the seventh ray, and which is the violet ray. And I'm starting to freak out, because the next thing is what she said was called I am, which is part of the I am discourses, which she's talking about. And this is our teachings back from the 1930s. Now, another part when I go into this part about these discourses is that what I saw in my NDE was written in these volumes of books that was back in the 1930s. I am getting, so that just in that shower, I was getting back chills, and I just, crap, my pants when I was seeing that part in that connection. It's like, holy shit, that was a sign right there. And then I had that whole deal with, in the books, the stuff that I saw, besides the portals they talk about, there's other things that are in the books that, and I'm going fully into my explanation, but there's just a little glimpse of things like, how did they know of this stuff? No one knows of this stuff. How they know this? How they see this stuff back here in these books? So that impressed me even more. But I've had artisan synchronicities where for my rehabilitation, I've been doing a lot. I had been driving up to Seattle with 45 minutes to a couple hours, depending on traffic, getting up there and doing my physical therapy. But now they had redone my shoulder. I had to do first an initial recovery. I spent a year and a half recovering my pectoral major attaching to me after we discovered it, because I had gone 6 months without knowing that had been severed. Even though I knew the pain, I felt the tremendous pain. It was like an 11, and I was screaming when they picked me up or do things. But lo and behold, so I was back in recliner again after doing that part. And so then they did a half shoulder surgery. So I was back in the recliner again. But this time, after they had got that done, I was starting to do physical therapy locally. So I happened to, the insurance company gave me a list of places to check out. So I went to the first place. It was a Wednesday. I can still remember, beautiful blue sky day. They should have been open. No one was there. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go to the next place. So I drove up, went up the hill towards a hospital where my first daughter was born. And there's these large 2 buildings, nice buildings. And I went into the place there, and everything worked out. It was like the stars aligned. Everything, you couldn't ask for perfectly. They had even a hot water pool. That my issue was my left arm had been attached to my left shoulder, the left side, for almost 2 years now. So it had it got locked. So to help release the arm, the water would be the best benefit to help me slowly release that arm. Well, lo and behold, my last name is very unique. It's Rieder, R-I-E-D-E-R, and it's a very rare last name. It's originally from like German-Austrian border. Lo and behold, these 2 buildings, Rieder Building 1, Rieder Building 2. So it was like another, again, a sign or synchronicity that I was meant to be here. These are the people I was meant to be at. Lo and behold, the owners are my relatives. Their son, who manages the properties, looked, and him and I looked like twins. So all these things just happened. So it's that after you've gone through this tremendous experience, and you're always trying to find reason or justification, the universe and source sends you signs saying these are things that are meant to be, from either meeting Saint Germain to doing, just the simple thing of, where you're going for physical therapy. Lo and behold, here's my relatives, out of the blue. Most of us were from the Midwest. And here I'm a rare, the black sheep of the family, sort of, out here on the far part, 2,000 miles away. And lo and behold, so my relatives from Germany, fresh, own this place. Is like, how you can't break it down to the numbers for that to happen. And so I've had numerous, again, other synchronicities that have happened through this event. And it's, so that keeps giving me hope. And that's where everything keeps lining up for me. And, I'm just great and thankful to Source to God and to my own, I call it my own presence. If you go into these discourses and what they've taught, and so many things have lined up. And, I can just tell people, yes, there is another side. I'm not fear of death. I mean, I'm the only thing I fear, I fear pain. I just don't want pain. I've been through too much pain. I still, unfortunately, experience it. I'm still healing, but so many things were that, just with that little girl with that dandelion, that helped so much when I realized, okay, I need to start taking dandelion root and tea, and I started getting my lymphatic system going, and because I was having pressure issues with my liver and stuff, and that's cleaned that up even more. All of a sudden, my health started to improve. And so like all these little things show me what I need to take next for a supplement, some Celtic salt, to working with black seed oil, to all these other natural healing things to bring my body into place. I mean, I unfortunately had developed diabetes at the time, and after my second year, and because the body wasn't doing anything. And with the medications that I had been receiving from the doctor, I had ballooned up to a weight of 311 pounds. I'm now today at 215. So all these things that have come into my life and are being shown on this path, what to do and how to recover. But at the same time, I've been exposed to so many other people that have had similar things for health-wise, and I can say, hey, I've tried this, I use this, and next thing you know, their health is improving. So what I've had to go through as a healer, and I've been able to help heal others through my experiences. Is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know I blabbered on. So is there any questions I can answer for you?
No, that was great. I mean, that's like incredible. You had a lot of experiences. I'm gonna try and turn the camera. Okay. No, thank you so much for sharing that. That was really great. It definitely, as you were talking, I was writing down some questions that I have for you about your experience. And the first one that comes to my mind is, did you know that you were dead while you were experiencing this, or right after you came back? Did it occur to you what just happened was that you died and you went to the other side, or at what point did you come to the realization that, oh, I actually died and went to the other side?
All right. So when I was on the other side, actually, I didn't know if I died or not. I mean, again, I was more like home. So to me, the other side's more real than here. So, and I didn't think, I didn't think of my family. I didn't think about anything in this world. Oh, my job, or I got to get back, or anything else. No, I was so that contentment, that love, that peace. I mean, when you're on this side, and all through your life, if you've experienced pains, agonies, loss of family members, stuff like this, and when you're on your side, the other side, when you're in that sheer bliss, you've been released from all that part. You've been released from the weight of your physical body. There's nothing retaining you, holding you back. You are free. So you are just, in bliss. So there's no thought about that. Now, it took, again, initially some time when I came back to here, because through that pain, even though I had the source helped me take away that pain. I mean, if you can imagine, again, 3/4 of your face being broken, and I sent you that one, but you saw with me and of how my eye was. I was dealing with so much pain for several days, and even then after the surgeries, that so you're taking time, you saw things, and you're going, was it a dream? Was it real? Was it a dream? Was it real? But it is so crystal clear. I mean, people, I forget dreams. I can still, to this day, 6 years later, the vividity of everything I can see right now. I can feel it right now. I know it's real. I know it was there. And the feeling when I get back in the density of this meat suit, it's just a different deal. I mean, I still love my body. I still love everything else. And, it's giving me a battle every day to, want to go back to their side. I'm going, no, I know I got to keep pushing forward one way or the other. I mean, I'm not to quit. So here we go.
I understand that.
But you start putting the pieces together, and the more than I started happening, of course, being on YouTube, I come across NDEs and all this other stuff, and going, wait a second, that was an NDE. And we say it, if a true person really had it, I had a death experience. I'm not going to tell you I had this near death experience. No, I was dead. I was gone. Especially when, I know what the watch thing, where I had looked before, was like 1 o'clock. And then when I was being thrown in the car, 1:35. So I'm going, where was that time missing? Where was I at? And I had, unfortunately, one of my, compadres that I'd worked with there at the boat shop, and we lost contact since with everyone because they've all dispersed or were released. But I still remember said, you were gone. You were dead. That was my worst day of my life you could ever imagine. And seeing you were there, it's like, I'm like, okay, I was dead. And then, like, why wouldn't they call 911? Why wouldn't they call an ambulance? I had to truly be dead in their view to not contact anyone, including the emergency contact.
Yeah.
They were probably figuring what to do with my body.
I think you probably got validation after the effect, right? After the fact that, this actually happened. Yeah.
Yep.
And because, like you said, that you're not the only person to experience very like there is like a lot of NDEs have almost like they have so many common elements that you can't dismiss it as just a dream, because the probability of all these different types of people from all over the world having the same dream is extremely unlikely, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing now, when I talked about that push-pull deal, and it clicked in my head, and I talked about it before, is, so I saw this place online, and then again on YouTube, of this place that had interaction. It's called, by Mount Adams, it was called East City Ranch, and it was a thing with UFOs and stuff like this, but also with energies and stuff. And I was compelled. I got that push-pull. I had to go. I had to go to this place. And lo and behold, it's only 4 hours away from me for driving. So, of course, I went down there. And I was sort of driving with, a sling, which wasn't always a good thing. But I got down there, and I felt like this energy. And it was weird, where the pain around my body began to recede. And I'm going there, and I'm just coming to all these people, and I thought, okay, this is a UFO thing, but why am I here? Well, as I get there, and so I'm just with the people and the energies, and that just this energy, it's a place where the ley lines interconnect to. So there's a different force there, and I was just amazed that I could feel it through the ground. It's almost like I felt like part of it was like on the other side. Now, when I got there too, I happened to experience things with craft as well, but the weirdest thing was at night, they put out this array for infrared and people to pass around these third gen high $5,000 military glasses for viewing at night, and to see these orbs and to see the elementals, these other little beings around. And next thing you know, I'm putting this on, like, okay, yeah, I just want to see, yeah, what are these people are saying? Maybe, this is funny, but let's just see what they're talking about. And next thing you know, I'm literally seeing orbs moving around, twisting, going from one side of the field to the other, like seconds. That's no bird. Nothing can do that type of movement. They're doing things that come in close to you. They hover. You almost can see, like, sometimes you're being inside them or other stuff happening. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then that evening at the same time, I felt like a presence coming at me, and I started taking pictures. And I can send you these other pictures as well. All of a sudden, there was from nothing in the pictures to all of a sudden a rainbow haze to all of a sudden a pink plasma field surrounding me with orbs coming out of it. So this is like another thing that I was like justification for knowing that I had seen stuff on the other side. That if I'm seeing this stuff, I'm seeing there's other reason that I saw stuff on the other side. So it's just more of a justification. And I've now been to that location 9 times. I've gone to that ranch and experienced so many other things. I've even had, for example, I was trying to get these daytime craft shots, and I wasn't getting anything in my pictures. It's where you take 20, 30 shots, and sometimes you get a craft in there. And again, this is a place where Mount Adams is where, right between Mount Adams and Mount Rainier, this is where they initially saw, the saucers, and that's how I got the name, these saucers. So, but I was trying to get shots, and all of a sudden, this one beautiful little old lady, right, showed up next to me. And she said, son, go within. Go within. So, to most people, they don't know what to go within, but you're going to your heart, just go with yourself and ask if you can get a couple pictures of what you're trying to see. And I told her, okay, I'll do this. And as I did, all of a sudden, I got a shot of her, of a craft. And I was going, okay, this is cool. And as I turned to her, she's gone.
Wow.
Now, I can see 50 yards this way. I can see 40 yards this way. There's no way in that amount of time that she could have done that. And I've loaded cold, find out that these are Lemurians, or some people might experience from Mount Shasta area, but are also up in this area. And this has happened. And I've counted other people that have had the same experience. So it's like, okay, I was meant to be here for a reason. I work with these energies, and just one more side of this experience. And right now I'm getting back chills, which is always fun to feel talking about it. But it's, I tell people, so many people, there's a veil around your eyes right now. And to so many people, they're wondering what's going on in life or stuff like that. And somehow through this experience, a lot of that veil was removed. I mean, I can honestly tell you, I've seen fairies. I've seen other elementals in nature and stuff that people talked about, that it's there. And it doesn't happen to me all the time. I just see them, but there's certain moments where these events happen. And so I describe to people, it's like it's just being an awareness. It's just an awakening.
So now I have some more questions now, because you mentioned when you were on the other side that you saw on the bottom half of the meadow, on the bottom tier of the meadow by the mountain, that there were other beings and human beings.
Right.
So my question, I'm sure everybody who's wondering this as well, who would ever be watching, is what did they look like? And even the fairies, what do they look like? Are they cute or are they creepy? What?
No, they're cute. So again, like when I said the others, so they're like beings, or some are long, skinny types. Some would say humanoid figures, but again, a lot of them, like their upper torsos are elongated. Their abdominal areas are very thin or tapered. Their arms may be a little bit longer. Some,
Avatars,
but they all have a humanoid form, but they're just different things.
Do they look like kind of like the avatars? Like avatars?
Some would look like avatars. Some had that blue form there. Some people had different other colors of things. It's, there's funny things because there were the humanoids there doing things. There was also, I'd say, humans jousting, or it would almost be like Viking guys, practicing their fighting skills. I saw a bunch of, they're doing a bunch of different things. And here's the funny part: if anyone has ever watched the music video, and again, I'm trying to think from Disturbed, The Sound of Silence. If you watch the original movie, not the one that he did from at the night show doing anything, but his original one of The Sound of Silence, you will see my NDE in black and white.
Really? You
will see where one of the band members goes into a tree grove. You will see where they talk about seeing thousands or others, not talking stuff. You'll see where this woman's going down writing music, where, into my comparison, I was seeing thousands of beings in that lower field. They had in that music video, they have it where the fog comes around and all of a sudden all these beings surround the other band members. Oh, I'm getting chills right now. So when I listened to that and saw that video, I freaked out because I'm going, that's my ND. That was my death experience. Wow. Holy crap. It's right there. But again, it's one of these things that just everything manifests afterwards. So it's more just, again, showing that, this was a true experience. But I'm like, all right, who had to experience that? Someone else had to see it, or it had something else, because that's what my deal is. So I go ahead, if you get a chance, watch that video and you put what I've been saying today, you go, holy crap, he's right. You'll actually see at the very end, they're bringing the boat, from crossing the boat from one side to the other, like the exchange of death from over here to the other side. And it's like, it's like, that's okay. That was my video.
I'm going to go check that out after this. I'm definitely curious.
Yeah, gotta.
When you were in the grass and when you were in that area and kind of enveloped, were you still an orb, or did you have a body at that point?
I didn't have a body. I just felt like I was a consciousness. Like, again, if you can imagine an orb, basically just having everything wrapped around you, like you're like an all-seeing eye, orb type, and just everything's connected to you. So I was still, because to me, it was just consciousness. There wasn't a body.
And the place that you went, you kind of described it as like being Earth-like, but like more vivid or brighter colors. What about things like smell, texture, sound? Did you hear any music? Did you smell anything?
I didn't notice much of the music or the no stuff there. Now I've gone over through other people who have had this type of experience, and it's like what I described was I was literally in heaven direct, where some people had to go through several levels to go through. I was sort of like put into this place where that was the true heaven, but I was put like in a hidden area or a side part or something. There's some reason why I had to go there, like how I snuck in or something happened to me. And even like the beings that I met, they're the ancients. These were the high level ones or whatever else, too. And I still feel part of that. They weren't they're family, but they're not like my family, my relatives here, they're coming to visit me. No, these were either ascended masters before or something else higher that I was meeting with. So, and this world, the colors, the vividity of everything was so much intense. There's colors that we don't have on this side. Again, everything was radiating love, was radiating that light. And so, it was coming from the grass, it was coming from the trees, it was coming from the mountains, it was coming from everywhere. It was all just, there's no worldly word to describe it. It's beyond perfection, that you were there.
Can you remember, because I've heard this from a lot of NDEers, and I never thought to ask this, but a lot of NDEers mentioned that that there are colors that we don't have here. So it makes me wonder, do you remember those colors? Like, can you see those colors in your mind? Or is it just like something you knew while you were there, but when you come back,
it's more of new with what you're there. It's like, I can't describe the colors here to you. There's nothing that compares to them there, but but a green is like multiple shades there, and it's so much more. Each color has its own special light, and and how it hits you and how it affects you, it gives of itself. And that's the biggest thing is, and I come back in this part of how I healed my body and doing these things. When you give love, and it's in a lot of these the I am teachings, when you give love to a higher being or to a higher self, that love comes back. So, for example, I say, beloved mighty I am presence, I send forth a flame of love from my heart flame to my mighty I am presence above, or my higher self. Or I'll say to something else, and I'll just wait a little bit. I will actually feel that love come back into me here. I will feel that pressure in my chest where I will actually feel the love like what I felt on the other side. If I send that flame of love to, let's say, some people have talked about the great central sun. If you might have heard of that before from people, or these cosmic energies that are coming through now, I'll send forth the flame of love there, and all of a sudden it'll come back, it'll hit me in the chest, and I will feel that love come back in. I feel like the energy is reviving my body, and this is how I've been able to rejuvenate and recover from all that, giving all my life force back from making those organites. I've learned by sending love and doing these basically decrees instead of prayers. I come from a decree comes from a position of power, where a prayer comes from a position of lack. And by doing these decrees, I've been calling out for anything that you decree out for others, 60% of that comes back to you. So the more that, and that's all again in these I am teachings and stuff. And I tell people, if you want to go into it, you can first go into what's called Unveiled Mysteries, is the first volume. This was written by Godfrey Ray King, again, back in the 1930s. And the first 3 volumes are the main ones, but it goes into this law of life. And it's, again, so much of what I saw into these volumes in these books, no one should know about. And some of these things that I saw and how to describe the Parthenons and all the stuff on their side and all these buildings, I'm going, how? I saw that when I was dead. How did this guy know of this stuff? But then I come to find out that, again, it's associated with, Saint Germain, but also I've worked with other people who've talked about with Saint Germain, and they also go into the Palladians. They go into our how the spiritually off-worlders, the highly advanced spiritually off-worlders, are working with their bodies, and that's why was I drawn to East City Ranch? And so here I am, going to these places, and I'm experiencing these things or these beings there too. So there's so much more than just what we're being told, what we are and what we experience. And the more I go into other NDEs, I've experienced that, where they talk about other alien life. They've had encounters now with these higher spiritualized off-world beings, that they're not demons as some people classify them to be. There are some negative ones, but there also are the positive ones. The Galactic Federation, for example, is one that people throw out, or they talk about the Great White Brotherhood, which happens with a lot of spiritual higher beings in the lower part here and for this area. So again, I can go through all these rabbit holes to you, but there's so much that one little area that you concentrate on, or like the focus of that love, you realize that there's so many other areas that it leads you into. So hopefully I explained that right.
Like I find it interesting from my perspective, because I'm a Christian. I'm going to give you full disclosure. I'm a Christian, and I think it's really interesting because, well, first of all, the Parthenon that you described, you're the second NDEer to tell me there's a Parthenon there. And the same picture that the same way you described it is the same way that the other gentleman described it. And when you told me that it has like all different colored gems, that as a Christian, that resonates really well with me, because if you look in the book of Revelation, and when they describe the new earth and the pillars like a Parthenon and the different colored gems, and they'll actually name you all the gems, and you can that's kind of visualize what it would look like. And the other thing that's really interesting is the trees. There's so many NDEers who have trees in their accounts. So you have a grove, or some people will just see one big tree or something, but there's a connection between the divine and the tree. And I guess it almost reminds me of like the tree of life.
As above, down as below. Yeah.
And the belief and the connection with the spiritual world. I mean, Jesus Christ always said that we're not fighting against flesh and blood. We're fighting against like spiritual battles. Like it's a spiritual thing that we're fighting against, not against people, but against evil spirits and evil things. And I feel like when people have that veil removed, they see like they can see the spiritual world. So they see the good spiritual beings, they see the bad spiritual beings, and yeah, it's pretty cool to see, like, even if I'm a Christian, so I know not everyone holds my worldview, but I always am interested to see how many things that there are in common, and it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, and then I was raised up Roman Catholic, and so this part here, I still hold a lot of beliefs, both in the Christian part, but in the other part that opened me up to other things. And to me, Jesus is an ascended master. He was the first visual one to actually see an ascension, the first publicized ascension. And as we go through there, we're all called to ascend. We're all called to learn these energies into how we energize our bodies, what we take in, and what we do to this vessel that we have been given. And just like when Jesus called, I am the truth, the way, and the light. I am the resurrection and the life.
Mm-hmm.
When he was calling that I am, to when he say I am, the I am is the God, God's source divine. He was calling to his God. He wasn't calling to himself. And that's where a lot of people, they use the term that he was calling to himself. No, he's calling to his God. I am the Father. And it's where when you work with the I am presence, and that's one thing I found is when I go through this instruction and what I've learned in the last 3 years, I've been practicing this stuff, this energy that's flowing back into me, this life force. And the things I recovered from, why I had to go through this for a reason. And then to have all this stuff happen and to be shown countless things that have happened that what I was seeing is truthful. And because then with Saint Germain, that's why I still wear the purple. I wear the amethyst on me all the time. It's anything with the violet. But when you practice with that stuff, when you use I am, because you might have, you'll hear of I am affirmations, and they said it's the most powerful thing. It's just because things happen when you use I am, and it definitely does. It's a double-edged sword, though. You never want to use I am in a negative connotation. You never want to say I am blankety blank blank sick, or I am blah 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 blah, because what you say those two words, you become. And that's where when Jesus used those two words, he was using them in calling the God power, and it's where you're helping healing. And my body's proof of what I experienced. And yeah, it's been 6 years and it's been a fight, but through this channel and this battle, what I've learned, I've gone through the dark side of the soul. I've been through hell. I was smoking 2 packs a day. Even after this event, I was going through all this troublesome stuff, and lo and behold, I was shown things to take. An example, quinine, for example, for people that might take it as a tonic water in their feet, or restless leg. But for me, it helped clear my lungs out. I no longer have smoker's hack. I've quit smoking 3 years after I got into this instruction. Wow. And I was a 2-pack a day smoker. Done. I mean, the body has just, I went from 311 pounds where I was being on pharmaceutical stuff, and I am off all that. And wow. People are constantly coming up to me like, how are you doing this stuff? But again, I was directed from it. But, I say to everyone else, we're all been shown different things. And there's so many signs. We're shown daily stuff that you just don't catch. But as the veil gets removed, you get knocked in your head a few more times or smashed in the face of the ground, you get to know you start paying attention to these things. I mean, I didn't pay attention to it, that I was literally entering the buildings that my relatives owned, and all these other things where I was sent to. And my doctor still goes, how are you doing this? What's going on? And how do you tell them, that I'm getting these signs from these places? This is what I need to do. And I'm sorry, I can't talk to you because, even though you're medical stuff, this stuff's working better than me. So.
I one quick question. The 7 beings that you met, what did they tell you? I know they communicated something. What did they communicate?
Well, it's more of, you asked for this is the one biggest thing I still get out of the deal is you asked for this. You asked us to come here and do this. Wow. I asked to join the league or whatever to come down here and battle the other forces, or my job was to do the light. Now here's another funny thing. Okay. In my life, again, I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I moved out here in the fall of 1999, fall of 1999. I have left here 3 times, all due to, like, I initially was a professional fly fishing guide in Alaska, and they found out I had sales experience. So the lodge office was based in Everett, Washington, just north of Seattle. So I came out here and experienced that. But eventually, the lodge owner lost the lodge from not paying his attorney. So I lost my job and I went back to Wisconsin, and I got in with Cabela's, which is a hunting fishing store company store. And 10 months later, I'm back out here again. And I've been like that 3 times. I've left here before. Once with my dad had cancer, I left, and I'm back again. I am stuck in this region. I can't leave. I want to move to Idaho. I will go back up to Alaska. Stuff. No, I'm within 50 miles of every time I've come out here where I've been before. And I'm a pillar of light for this region. This is my area of control. Like, I am. Some people say the 144. I'm not. I'm humble. I don't know what I am. But I just know that I'm meant to be here, and this is my area to deal with. And yes, and like this weekend, I was at a Renaissance fair, and I'm out there and praying for all the people, or not praying, but decreeing to all the people around me to bring forth perfection and purification to everyone here. Again, their blessings and blah 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 blah. And I go to these places and I just do this. And like, I'm just sharing the love that I feel, and I know that all of a sudden that love comes back, even though the humanity may not feel it. But I'm sending it out to a greater part, and it's coming back. But I'm here to do this for some reason. I've been through this pain. Pain becomes power. I mean, I've dealt with so much of it that it turns into power. And same thing when I'm doing these decrees and I'm working on other things, it just comes back that I'm able to deal with such force, where before this is my training grounds. And who knows where it be, who I am after this life, what I truly am in the other side, which I know I'm something tremendous, but it's where we're definitely all here to go through stuff. And when people say, man, this place sucks, it's real, so I've been on this earth where I've faced brown bears, I've flown a hang glider in a thunderstorm, afterwards I've had the most beautiful double rainbow show up at that. I've flown over volcanoes, I've been through mountain valleys, other things that I've seen, like I'm there on this earth closest to it. I've experienced a lot of this stuff, but I got to tell people, I've experienced life, and there's the beauty of this world is tremendous. Yes, chaos is going on, but guess what? That veil is starting to be removed, that you're finally able to see this stuff, that what has been hidden from our view for so long, these negative energies, and our job is just how to strengthen our light. And the more of these things that we go through, the more we learn to help other and do other things, we just increase that light within. And I forget this part when you said with your Christian part that I don't know if it was Moses in the Old Testament or not, but talked about everyone has that light within. Everyone has a light within. Well, that light, again, is that I am presence. And, and the more that you increase that light and fold into it, we're all basically ascending in a different way. And these other earth energies that are coming through right now, if one people need to look at or find out about, if you don't know what the Schumann resonance is, find out go on Google or on YouTube or Facebook. There'll be different groups that talk about the Schumann resonance and these energies coming through. And some people like me, there's been days where I get literally flattened to the ground. The energies are coming through so strong that I can hardly lift my feet up. I feel like I'm Atlas holding the earth. But there's a reason that these energies are coming through and working with either our DNA, our body, who knows what. And we're just being transported to, the next level. So wow. There's another rant in there. So you got any other questions I can answer?
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And there's a lot of information there, but I think that was well said. And I appreciate you sharing all of this as, a lot of this is like very spiritual. So it's kind of like, it's something that needs we would need a lot of time to get deep into all the spiritual stuff. But I think that, I really appreciate you coming here and sharing everything and sharing your account and everything you learned from it. And I think it's awesome that the way that it changed your life, your perspective, how you've been able to go out and help other people and, have a heart for people more. I think that's the one thing that I always hear NDEers say, is how it's made them feel like they want to love people more afterwards. And that's incredible. That's like the best thing about
Well,
NDE.
yeah, especially after dealing with Washington, Seattle traffic, driving to and fro. Where in mornings it's an hour or two to drive there, and sometimes 3 hours to drive home. I was loving humanity at that time, but and that's one thing I describe is, yes, to go from I was a sailor, working tugboats, and I just happened to be in the shore side when they moved me there just to do this stuff, and things happen for a reason. And now you're talking about all this love, this joy. I'm going to places, I'm meeting people that I've never thought I would meet. I would never go to like that East City Ranch before if I had not heard this stuff or talked, or done the YouTube to find out this woman, and then eventually found out about the I Am discourses. I mean, it's led to so many journeys, and that's why I just tell people, be open to what path. There's so many things that are trying to lead you to a path, and once you go down some of these rabbit holes, your world, yes, is forever changed.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because there's so much information out there.
Yep.
So Rodney, I'm done with my questions. I don't have any other questions. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I'm good at this time, but if you always want to call me back and do another session on something else, I'm definitely open.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I'll figure out some more questions to ask you and we can continue to discuss. And I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your energy that you actually came out, but like, it's a vulnerable thing to share, your NDE, because sometimes when I've had people come on who've been really hesitant to share because they're worried about what their relatives were going to think or their coworkers are going to think. So the fact that people are actually coming on here and sharing these really vulnerable and like intimate details with me, with the audience on YouTube, I don't take that for granted. I deeply appreciate you. I deeply appreciate you coming on here and for sharing all this information. And I just want to say thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
And
no, thank you again and again. If anyone, I was gonna say, if anyone wants to contact me or anything else, do that part. It's you can always email me at ROD reader RIEDER, and I'll send you a link to it there too, so you have it if anyone's got any additional questions or if I can answer something for them too on the side. So
perfect. Yeah, I'll thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.